upset. You would expect Man United to go and win there.
Over $1 billion was paid in transfer fees between the clubs in Europe.
It's football. It's damn football. Like Ferguson said, football. Bloody marvellous.
Yeah, well, the celebration was, I can't believe I just scored against Mexico.
At one point, Parma, I think it's something like 224 players under contract.
Hey, they're going to throw me out of here, fellas. You're going to get me arrested on your show.
If you're a serious talent, you're going back and you're playing for Santos. You know, you're going back to play for, like in Argentina, for River Plate or Boca Juniors, or you're going to Europe.
He looked like the Ryan Giggs of old. He was more creative than any player on the pitch. He made Mata look stupid. He made Rooney look silly.
Now, the Premier League is the most exciting league out there. I think it's probably the best marketed league without a question.
When you look at the draw for the Champions League, you kind of say, well, all the pieces kind of fell into place for everybody except City.
I am your host, Joe Usello. Sir Bob, Mike Orr, my co-host, Rob Rojas, my trusted co-host, Ben the Machine. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 78 of Low Limit Football. I am your host, Joe Usello, and back for another exciting week of football after the weekend that we had in both Copa America and the Women's World Cup. We're into the knockout stages at this point in both tournaments, and we'll be getting to those in a few minutes. We have a great guest coming up here tonight in George Quraishi from Howler Magazine. Going to be excited to talk to him about a few different things going on both at the U.S. level and world soccer in general. And hopefully we're still efforting two more potential guests that may come on. I didn't want to release their names and kind of put them on the spot, so I didn't want to do that. But if they do come on and we do get them on in time, it's going to make this show just go right through the roof, and I'll be really excited if and when they can come on. So first up for introductions tonight, Roberto Rojas. Rob, how are you tonight?
Doing well, Joe.
Good. Back, you're still on the party circuit, I see, after this weekend. Seems like you're always out partying.
Yeah, man, summer. Gotta enjoy it.
I hear you. Summer's way too short these days. It seems like winter's always twice as long. So, and speaking of winter from the Great White North, Sir Bob, Mike Orr. Mike, what's going on?
Good evening, Joseph. How are you doing?
Good. Can't wait to finally get on the vacation circuit myself coming up soon. Be really excited about that. I could certainly use a little time off from reality, that's for sure. So a couple things I want to mention, speaking of vacation. We are going to be off next week. Normally we would have a show on June 29th, but we are off next week, seeing that is my wife's 40th birthday, and I'm sure she would kill me dead if I managed to have a show that night. So
I think she might kill you dead for mentioning her age.
Well, honestly, Mike, once you hit this point, it doesn't matter. It just really doesn't matter at all, man. But happy birthday to my beautiful wife Paula. And I'm ahead of her anyway, so I know what 40's like. I've gotten through that, so it's not a big deal. Also, we will be returning on July 7th with a show then. Then we will be back on July 15th, which is a Wednesday. So the next two shows will be July 7th, which is a Tuesday night, and July 15th, which will be a Wednesday night, and it'll mess up Victor Scamorza big time, as we managed to do that last week. But then after that, we should be back to our normal Monday nights. And again, that's how summers go. You know, people go on vacation, things happen, and that'll do it. So, but we'll be back in better than ever. We'll have some great shows coming up, even though we'll be on off nights, but we'll still have things going right. So, Mike, I'm going to throw it over to you quickly for our trivia question, and then we'll open up with our opening thoughts from this week, and then hopefully George will be ready to come on with us. So what are you going to stump us with this week? Or, Mike, did we lose you again?
I'm here, but just hold on one second. I had it, and now I seem to have just misplaced it, but here it is. During my career, I played for 5 European clubs, all of them having reached a Champions League, European Cup final, a Champions League / European Cup finals since 1988. I scored 62 international goals, and I also scored at 3 World Cups. Who am I?
Oh, good Lord.
So I'll read it one more time because I stumbled over it. During my career, I played for 5 European clubs, all of them having reached a Champions League/European Cup final since 1988. I scored 62 international goals, and I also scored at 3 World Cups. Who am I?
3 World Cups.
Nah.
3 World Cups. Played at 3 World Cups.
I got nothing.
Do you mind repeating it one more time for me? I think I have a guess.
Okay. But you're saving it for the end, right?
Yes.
Okay. During my career, I played for 5 European clubs. All of them reached a Champions League/European Cup final since 1988. I scored 62 international goals, and I also scored at 3 World Cups. Who am I?
5
I got
European clubs.
I know who it is.
5 European clubs.
I know who it is.
That's what's killing me right now. Is 5 European clubs. All have reached a cup final since 1988.
I know. Yep.
Hold on. Oh, wait a minute. I think I know who it is too.
It can only be one.
I think one. 1, 2, 3.
I'm positive mine's is correct.
You might be right. I think mine doesn't have enough teams. So, that's all right. I'm sticking with it for now, and then we'll figure it out after. So, and of course, if Liam's in the chat, I don't see him logging into the chat yet. But if he's there, I'm sure he will message you the right answer within a couple of minutes. That's for sure. So, that's just how he rolls. But you never know. You might have gotten him this time. So we'll have to find out if he gives that to us. So let's hit our opening thoughts, gentlemen. And the opening thoughts on this one, I thought was an interesting one. And Mike, just to give it to you a little bit, as a poker player, I've kind of always thought about this along the lines of playing poker. Is if this is something that you would do, because you and I certainly have access to being able to do something like this in the poker world. And the opening thoughts is taking a selfie with a superstar on the pitch after a match. Now, a big deal was made about Deshaun Brown from Jamaica, who grabbed Lionel Messi after their match between Jamaica and Argentina in the Copa America to take a selfie with the Barcelona legend. And some people, kind of frowned on it a little bit. Why would you do that? And even in the article that I have here, which is from the Daily News, said Brown. Let's see. Brown, who plies his trade from Norwegian team Vålerenga, went from colleague to fan and flashed a huge grin while taking a picture alongside the world's greatest player. And Messi looks like okay, whatever. He's kind of into it. I've talked about this because I'm talking about this in relation to poker, because in the poker world, you can actually, with the greatest players, the Daniel Negreanu's of the world, the Phil Iveys of the world, you can sit down at a table with them if you have enough money and play. And that's not something that you can do with Lionel Messi. You can't just sit, take your soccer ball down to the park and go kick the ball around with Lionel Messi for an hour. It's not something you can do. So I don't necessarily frown on Deshaun Brown for taking the selfie with him. I mean, I'd be a little awe-stricken myself, or a little star-stricken myself, if I was able to play against what is arguably one of the greatest soccer players to ever walk onto the pitch. But at the same time, it's tough because you run between that stardom line and that colleague line, like they mentioned in the story. This is a guy that you just got done running around the pitch for 90 minutes with, and now here you are pulling out your iPhone and taking a selfie. So, Mike, I'm going to throw it over to you first with your thoughts on this topic, because, like I said, there's a direct correlation with the poker world, which you and I have lived in or do live in. So, what are your thoughts on what Deshaun Brown did and the idea of taking a selfie with a superstar?
Well, first I'd say, Joe, good luck getting your selfie with Phil Ivey.
Right. Oh, of course.
That would be a tough one to get. But yeah, no, I have no problem with it. I think it's kind of cool. And I would, the biggest shock for me was I didn't realize Deshaun Brown wasn't on Colorado anymore.
Yeah, no, he's moved on to Europe.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah.
He definitely played for Colorado at the beginning of the year, so I did not know that.
Yep.
He is it a loan, I think.
Yeah. So Rob, would you run out and take a selfie with a player on the pitch like that?
Oh, hell yeah, of course. Once in a lifetime opportunity. I mean, it's been done. It's not just selfies, but you have people. I remember the 2013 Club World Cup when Ronaldinho was playing for a Brazilian club. The players from the Moroccan club, Casablanca, basically stripped out the player to his underwear, basically. He wanted his shorts, his shirt, everything, just because they were so starstruck.
Yes, I remember that. I remember seeing that. So, Mike, I'm going to rewind the show just a moment here and have you repeat the trivia question. Liam is now in the chat. And for those that are listening or listening in for the first time, we do have an interactive chat room. So, when we have guests on, if you have questions for guests or anything like that, or if you have questions for us, you can always throw them in the chat and one of us will get to them. But Liam missed the trivia question for this evening. So if you
I think as a handicap to Liam, maybe he can get the question this week without hearing it.
You can probably still get it right. But if you have the question up and running, if you wouldn't mind repeating it for him.
So you want me to repeat it or put it in chat?
However you want, whatever you want to do.
I'll just stick it in chat.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So the trivia's in chat, and this way, anyone else that is coming on to listening to the show and jumps into the chat room, which is on our website, which is lowlimitfootball.com. If you jump in and look in the chat room, Sir Bob or Mike Orr just reposted the trivia question for this evening, and Rob and I both have guesses as to the correct answer, but as usual, I'm wrong. Rob probably has it right, and Liam probably knew it, at the first three words of the sentence. And of course, Liam puts in the chat, "Oh, that's easy." So another one bites the dust for us. But so if you join us at lowlimitfootball.com, our live interactive chat is there, and usually we get some great stuff coming out of the chat. It's almost like a sideshow to the actual radio show. So the consensus here on Low Limit Football is, we're all taking selfies. And let me ask you this, aside from Lionel Messi, guys, and let's put Cristiano Ronaldo into that topic as well, because he's probably going to be a yes for all three of us. Give me two or three guys that you would want to take that selfie with. Rob, I'm going to go to you first. Give me two or three players, either active or inactive, that you would, after a match, you would run up to with your phone and to take a selfie with.
Disregarding Messi and Ronaldo?
Yeah, because I think those are all givens.
Neymar.
Okay.
Sergio Aguero.
Okay.
And Roque Santa Cruz.
Okay, that's a good one, too. Mike, how about you? If you had to give me three players.
No Cristiano Ronaldo for me.
Okay.
Unless he's using his phone.
he might want a selfie.
That means he wants one of me. But I would say definitely Aguero. There's only two I would want.
Yeah.
Aguero and Silva.
And David Silva. Okay.
That's it.
I think my list, just to be a little different from you guys, I would go with one. I would go with Roberto Baggio. Okay. I would definitely jump at the chance. And Andrea Pirlo would be in that same sentence. I'd
like to see you get one with Baggio just after he missed the penalty.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back in time a little bit. I was not in the mood to take a selfie at that point, so trust me. But I think the third one, guys, I gotta say Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I think that would be a cool one, and then he'd probably want to kick me right in the head afterwards. But I think Zlatan would be one that I would certainly want as well. So I just want to give you guys also a quick update in the Women's World Cup round of 16 right now. We've got Norway leading England 1-0, and it looks like they are in the 78th minute. I can't tell quite, for sure in the on the screen here, but it looks like they're in the 78th minute. And again, England down 1-0 to Norway at the moment. So on a goal that was, I guess, quote-unquote, semi-controversial, went in off the crossbar, and they went to goal line technology to see that the ball was in by about 6-8 inches, I would say. So, let's see. What is that? Liam just posted in the chat. I have one.
So why is that controversial then, Joe?
Oh, I'm not controversial. Just that they used. I'm sorry.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thrilling. I guess would be a better. Yes. Thank you. Liam has one with Czech, Hazard, Lampard, and Terry. Czech he just got last month. So he says, So I guess he's lucky.
Pretty ironic to mention Czech today.
Peter Cech?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got some news on him, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm going to shoot George a message. Actually, why don't you lay the Peter check info out while I go ahead and shoot George a quick message, see if he's ready.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. Apparently, his decision is that he's going to be heading to Arsenal at the start of the new season.
Now, I heard that a lot of that is unconfirmed at the moment.
I heard Sky Sports tweeting it, so I don't know about that.
Okay. So that's interesting. I know that the talk, the heavy talk that was around today was Andrea Pirlo to NYCFC.
Yep, and Mario Mandzukic confirming for Juventus.
Yep, he had his physical this morning. I saw those tweets this morning at 7 a.m. that he was in Turin having his physical. So that is a done deal.
The Daily Mail, the rag that it is, has actually said that Pirlo signed, and his first game will be July 12th against TFC.
I did see that, and Liam's putting Kondogbia to Inter as well. That let's talk about that quick while we're waiting for George to come on. Kondogbia to Inter is, in my opinion, an enormous signing because that was originally going to go to AC Milan. Kondogbia was going to go to AC Milan. He was going to go somewhere else too, and I can't remember who else was in play for him. I think it was an English side, if I remember correctly. England just tied it up, by the way, 1-1 between them and Norway. So, for Inter to swoop in and take him, I think is fantastic. It also shows you that the Milan side's guys are just not going to lay still this season. And I think for Italian football to really be at the top, you need to have at least one, if not two, good Milan sides. Either Inter or AC Milan or both need to be towards the top, and none of this mid-table stuff that they've been going through for the past couple of years. Really need to be at the top of their game, and I think it makes Italian football better when that does happen, because there's such historic clubs that it adds a little more credibility to the teams in the league. And Kondogbia is definitely one of those guys, as being that defensive midfielder. Maybe it was going to be Arsenal or City. I can't remember where, but he was rumored to go somewhere in England. So, that to me is a huge pickup. Any other messages or any other?
I'm just looking at an article that says he has just signed with Inter Milan.
Yeah,
Jeffrey Kondogbia, right?
Yes, yeah. He signed with Inter.
Oh, it's Inter. I thought you said Juventus. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I mean, Juventus has got their own host of characters that they've picked up. We talked about Mandzukic to Juventus. We've also got Dybala, which I think is confirmed.
And it was Arsenal, yes, that he was rumored
also got Semi Khedira.
Semi Khedira, yep.
Yep.
But let me ask you this. Do you think Mandzukic is the right replacement for Tevez, who's going to Boca, most likely?
They're different styles to me. I think if you really wanted to pick up a replacement for Tevez, which Tevez hasn't happened yet, but I think if you wanted to pick up a replacement for Tevez and you wanted to go get it at Atletico, I would have said Griezmann would have been the like player. Griezmann to me reminds me more of the style of Carlos Tevez than Mandzukic. Mandzukic is almost more like Morata to me. But I also think at the same time they had Tevez's replacement already in Dybala. Dybala to me plays a little bit more like Tevez. And what you're going to see is you're going to see Mandzukic make this starting lineup with Morata to go. As they're bringing Dybala and Morata coming along, I think you're going to see Dybala. You're going to see Morata go back to Real Madrid after next year, which unfortunately, he's still tied to them. And then you're going to see a front line of Mandzukic with Dybala playing up top instead of, and you'll come full circle. You'll still have Llorente there. And I'm missing. I think Simone Zaza is supposed to be coming over as well, if I remember correctly. I know Zaza belongs to Juventus, but I think they're actually bringing him in now at this point. So they're gonna be pretty well stacked. And we talk about Sebastian Giovinco now, and now we're talking about Tevez leaving. We talked about last year Vucinic left. For all the forwards, for all the strikers that they've gotten rid of, they've really done a nice job of replacing them on the cheap. Don't you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think Juve's doing it the right way, and I think the Sami Khedira signing is a big one. Now he's not the direct replacement for Andrea Pirlo, that's for sure, but I think between Khedira and Marchisio playing back there, I think they're going to be doing well. It's almost, I would say right now, it's probably 80-20 that Pogba stays in Juventus for at least one more year. By all reports from his agent, from even himself, it doesn't look like he's going anywhere over this summer, which is kind of what David Amoyal said. The last time we had him on, that he could go this summer, but he really thought it was more likely next summer. You're also seeing a resurgence of Arturo Vidal, which we can talk about the bad stuff that happened with him in the Copa America a little later on in the show. But Vidal has also been playing very, very well as of late. So I think Juve's really set up for another run, guys, and not to turn this into a total discussion on Italian soccer or Juventus in general, but to close it out, I think they're going to be very, very good next year. Liam's thinking that Inter's going to be very big. They're going to be challengers next season. I think he's right. I think you're going to see a situation where Mancini is going to get to shape that team into his image, and certainly turn them into a better side. And they were kind of on that road moving forward anyway. So. Not to totally commandeer the talk there. I just want to mention that George is going to be ready in about 5 minutes, so we'll have him on, and obviously we've got some great questions, coming up for him. So, anything else that you want to throw on? I know that after George comes on, Mike, you're going to be going through the simulation that we ran this time around with the EPL Serie A challenge, I guess is the best way to call it, right?
Sounds like a plan.
Yep. So we're going to talk about that. And then, you know what, I'll tell you what, because it's only going to take a couple of minutes, I'm just going to throw around I'm going to move around the show plan a little bit. I'm going to go to the Under-20 World Cup that just closed out over this past weekend, if you gentlemen don't mind. Just going to talk about it real quick. I'm just going to get into the scoreline here. We had a final matching Serbia against Brazil. And the match went into extra time with Serbia winning 2-1. Goals by Mandic in the 70th minute and Maksimovic in the 118th minute. Brazil had tied it up on a Pereira goal in the 73rd minute on this one. So congratulations to Serbia to winning the Under-20 World Cup. Just trying to look for the match report, which I did not have up just as of yet. But if you'll bear with me 1 second, we can get into the total information here.
Let me ask you something. Are any of these under 20 guys on the Brazil side? Who do you see stepping up into the senior team soon?
Well, Danilo, who's the captain, plays on the defensive line. He plays, if I remember correctly, Danilo plays in Europe. I just can't remember where he's playing. But he's certainly somebody, and I'm gonna just do some quick homework on him. But I believe he's one. Where does he? I'm sorry, Rob.
Braga.
Oh, he plays at Sporting Braga. Okay, so that's obviously a guy that's playing in Europe.
Well, wouldn't you think he'd have a hard time stepping into the seniors team playing there?
No,
he needs to move to a bigger team. No.
No. I mean, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I would say that you're right. That he does need to move to a bigger side to be able to step into something like that. I would agree with you there. But I would imagine that he would be, making his way there. Nobody's going to stay at Sporting Braga at that point. So if the kid's worth his weight in gold, and he is the captain of this side as well. So you would imagine that he will.
And have you heard any rumors about him or no?
I have not. Rob, how about you?
Nope.
No, nothing yet. So,
all right.
But again,
how old is he?
Oh, he's got to be under 20.
Oh, sure.
19. So.
All right. So yeah, it could be another couple years for you or something.
Still a young kid, exactly. So, and I'm just kind of looking through anything else here, but that will do it. So, the U20 World Cup has concluded with Serbia defeating Brazil for the title there. As we had reported last week, the U.S. the U.S. Under-20 national team was eliminated. I think it was actually by the Serbian side, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and penalties.
Yep. So actually, I'm on the wrong site here. It was in penalties to the Serbian side, and it just stinks that when you see stuff like that happen, it makes you wonder what could have been, But certainly a lot of promise in this U20 side. You're going to see a few of these kids move up to the national side, especially going into the next World Cup. I would imagine you're going to see a few of them, and as far as U.S. soccer goes, it looks pretty promising, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So all right, let me go and reach out back to George and make sure that he's ready to go on. I mean, do you guys have anything else that you want to add to whether it be U20 or obviously we're going to talk about Women's World Cup and Copa America coming up in a few. But if there's anything else you guys want to add, whether it be any rumors that you've heard of movement, because we haven't gotten into the transfer stuff too much in previous shows.
I know we had a discussion amongst the three of us about penalty kicks deciding a game. And I just wanted to say that even under the thing that I proposed, the United States still would have lost that particular game in a shootout because that game is, it's just the championship matches, I think, shouldn't be decided in a shootout. Obviously, you couldn't have all the matches throughout a tournament that way because you'd have guys who couldn't reach the final. They could have played, 3 extra games because of that. But right. Just the championship final. Yeah, should not be decided by a shootout. I
would prefer that all the matches or none of the matches be decided by penalty kicks in those types of situations.
I would prefer that too, but I could see why you can't do that. And yeah. I would be happy if it was just, I'd hate to see a World Cup, European Championships, any of them. I hate to see it decided on a penalty kick.
Go ahead, Rob.
It's been done twice. It's been.
No, that's what I said. I hate to see it done. It's a terrible way to decide a world champion or any champion for that matter.
I had called into the football show on Sirius XM and talked to Phil Shane about this once upon a time, and he was kind of under the same umbrella that I was. My opinion, what you do from here is, let's say you play the 120, then what you do is you start to play 15 minutes. You start to play 15-minute halves, which turn into a golden goal, okay? But you're allowed one additional sub, I would say, like every 30 minutes, okay? So now,
yeah, and under my system that me and Rob talked about, I proposed that allowing more subs too, but
I think you need to.
As long as I don't care how whatever system they come up with, as long as it was, and if they expanded it to more than just the championship, I'd be fine with that. But I just wish they could find a way to eliminate the shootout from at least deciding the championship.
Yeah. I want to mention to the listeners as well, if you guys are available, to log into our chat and let us know what your opinion is on using penalty kicks or penalty shootouts to decide these major tournaments, whether it be a final or even in knockout stages, to have that happen. So I'm going to just go ahead and put the discussion on hold because joining us now, I believe, let me just double check here. I want to make sure that I haven't lost him. Oh, it looks like I have. So let me go ahead and add him into the call here now because George just tried to get in with us, and for some reason
I think he's on.
Yeah, for some reason it didn't connect. But let's.
I can hear you guys.
Oh, there you are. Actually, I'm sorry. All right. So joining us from Howler Magazine is George Quraishi. George, this is Joe Usello. How are you?
Hey, I'm fine. How are you?
Good. For some reason, it doesn't show up that you're actually in my Skype. So, so you're like,
sorry about that.
Yeah, you kind of almost like snuck in the back door here or something. But that's cool. We don't mind. We're glad you can join us, and we're obviously excited to have you here tonight. I do want to open the questioning really quick. I'm going to throw you over to my co-host as we move along here. But I wanted to open the questions with you. And I want to talk about Howler Magazine. Just first and foremost, obviously a very, very popular football publication here in the United States, and really been on the scene about a year and a half, right, George?
We're actually 3 years old now.
Is it?
Believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's that long.
Although I have to say we've only put out 8 issues. So if you're going by like a strict editorial calendar, that's more like 2 years. So you're a little closer than.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But tell me about the origins. Tell me about how it came to be. Obviously, as one of the founders and the editors of the magazine, you've been there since ground zero. So how did it come about?
Sure. Well, first of all, let me apologize for being late. I feel very bad, but I am. We just moved to Florida, so I've been sort of taken away from my work duties and put on house moving duties. So anyway, I'm here. So yeah, I guess you can start at the very beginning. I was an editor in New York City. I was working at a book publisher called HarperCollins and working on nonfiction books. And I had worked in magazines before, and I had some friends who did still. And we were just sort of talking to each other and thinking, wouldn't it be nice to make a magazine for people like us, people who like soccer, who want to read about soccer. We happen to have a lot of writer friends who happen to love soccer, but nobody was asking them to write about it. And so we thought, there's a gap there. There are some really talented people who should be writing about soccer. Nobody's asking them to. And so we paired that with, some really great illustrators and artists who we brought in, and you have the finished product, which is, we hadn't really seen anything like it when we made it, and that was exciting for us. That was an opportunity.
Now, is there any plans right now? It looks like you guys are going quarterly. Is there any plans for you to maybe go monthly?
Oh, that's interesting. It's sort of something we talk about. I think if we were to do anything, it would be maybe to go 6 times a year, so bi-monthly rather than monthly. I kind of like the frequency because it allows us to have a little bit of a remove from the news cycle and sort of take on subjects and topics in a way that is a little bit more, I don't know, calm or it's just a little less frantic when we talk about things, which I like that about doing the mag quarterly.
Okay. Now, one of the topics that I want to bring up, or one of the stories that I want to bring up, obviously caused a great deal of headlines, especially through the soccer world, was the article that was written by Robert Andrew Powell back in, I believe it was March, about his encounter with Marcelo Claure and the bid for Miami for the Miami team to the MLS stadium and everything that was going on with that. I found it a fascinating read, and it was kind of funny how things happened where according to Robert, these things were said at the Sporting Kansas City match, and but nobody wanted to kind of stand behind it after. I haven't seen much more come of it since the initial fervor on Twitter and that sort of thing. Has anything else come of this? Especially with Howler's relation with MLS.
No, I don't think so. It's the kind of thing where I'm not sure. The nature of the disagreement or the dispute was such that they, Sporting Kansas City said, Rob Heineman, the owner of Kansas City, didn't say the things that Robert has him saying in the story. Marcelo Claure also claims that Robert misquoted him or made up, quotes that we attribute to Claure. In both cases, we felt very, very comfortable with backing up Robert. I've worked with him multiple times. He's one of our best writers. He's extremely trustworthy, in my opinion, and just an excellent reporter. And the things that he got them saying were, I think, embarrassing to them. And so I wasn't surprised that they didn't want it to come out. But no, insofar as in Sporting Kansas City's second denial that we published, they said that they would no longer accommodate us. There was this whole sort of fracas back when the story came out because I think Alexi Lawless said to them, "Hey, is that true?" And they said, "No, we'll work with Howler." And so there's a little bit of a weird disconnect there. But as far as I can tell, we haven't really made a request from Kansas City recently. That it's just the nature of what we do. We don't have beat writers on every team. So it's not the case that we would know immediately, for instance, that somebody's credential had been revoked or something like that. But as far as I can tell, there have been no league-wide repercussions. We continue to work with a lot of other teams in the league, and yeah, my contacts at the league office seem to be still taking my calls as far as I can tell. So that's all been fine. It's it's the kind of thing where I think you sort of understand that when a story like that is coming out, and it was a very sensitive time for them with the very end of the CBO negotiations. Yes. collective bargaining negotiations, you understand that that's a sensitive time. So I wasn't very surprised that there was some pushback, but I don't think there's been any permanent damage. I hope that's not the case.
Well, you hate to see it because to limit the access of media for these types of things, I think I think it would hurt the league, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but look, what is that access really worth? It's the trade-off is don't say if you catch us in saying something that we don't want to have out there, then we'll take away your access. So it's like if the basic bargain is I'll only print exactly what you want me to, I'm not sure what that's worth in the first place. You know what I mean? It's the kind of thing where, like, if you don't have those tensions, you don't have these sort of skirmishes every once in a while, things are pretty cozy. And what is the ultimate value of that?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's like you have to respect the fact that you guys would actually write the tough story. That's important. You can't just give all the fluff. Because there are bad things that happen, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking soccer or politics or whatever. I mean, look at everything that's going on right now in FIFA, which is a hot mess. Could you imagine FIFA limiting what kind of stories could be written, that kind of thing? It's crazy, and you have to respect that. I mean, a lot of times, even here on the show when we have guests on, we tend to run the line because we want people back. So we don't want to ask the uncomfortable question, but we do want to ask the truth seeking type questions. And it just, of course, it makes for a better show, but too it gives you a chance to discuss something. So I think it would be crazy for them not to, or to limit Howler's access, because if that happened, then what's going to happen is you're going to limit their own personal exposure. So MLS just won't be reported on it in multiple outlets, and then you're kind of just going to close it off where no one's even going to really care. So yeah,
my basic thought is that MLS should really welcome some controversy. It's good to have, that's how you drive interest. I mean, it's scary, maybe. I understand that. But honestly, I think the league suffers from not having enough independent news organizations looking into it the way the NFL does. And I think that you could definitely argue that the NFL feels maybe burned by journalists in the last couple of years, but overall, it's been a pretty good bargain for the NFL to have that much coverage. They've really prospered from it. So,
exactly.
The MLS really, it's a hard thing to let go of, but ultimately, I think people in the league office get it. They need to be in the news. They need to be making interesting moves. They need to be talking about this stuff. If there's no controversy, it's boring and nobody pays attention.
Boring is the perfect word. I agree with you 100%. So I'm gonna send you over to Rob Rojas. Rob, I know, has a bunch of questions, and he's gonna throw it back to me for one last question on some U.S. men's national team stuff. So Rob, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Yes, hi, George. I just wanted to mention quickly FIFA once more. There was a report made last night and early this morning that Diego Maradona was going to run for FIFA president. How do you feel about that?
Oh man. Well, I guess I can't court controversy and then say I'm against a Maradona presidential run. Although if it ends up being sort of like if he's the Donald Trump of FIFA presidential runs, then I guess that's a good thing. It's sort of a fun sideshow to have. I don't think he would actually. I can't imagine he would be the best candidate we could possibly come up with, but totally fun to follow that. I mean, Maradona is such a fascinating character, and watching him age, it hasn't always been graceful. But he's a real person. Like, you get the sense that this is not a very filtered kind of guy, and I do appreciate that about him.
Do you feel that?
What do you guys think? I mean, would you want Maradona to be president of FIFA running world soccer? That'd be kind of amazing, right?
Absolutely. I liked your analogy to Donald Trump. I think it's about the same as that.
Yeah, I think Maradona would become such a train wreck that, obviously we talked about just now about the tough controversial stories. He would certainly foster that type of stuff. I mean, his history goes back to his days playing in Napoli, where he was just a total cluster. And
oh yeah. And then I'm not sure. Are there drug test requirements for FIFA president? I don't know, and I don't know if he would pass it. So, these are all questions that we need the FIFA ethics committee to answer for.
Well, good luck with that. Yeah, that itself it's like military intelligence, right? People say that's an oxymoron. Yeah, FIFA ethics is another one. So
exactly.
Do you feel that the idea of running FIFA would have to be former players, such as Luis Figo, for example?
Oh no, not at all. In fact, I think that I think former players should have a huge say in how FIFA's run. I mean, I think current players should have a huge say in how FIFA's run. I think that the idea that whether it's coaching or running FIFA that only former players can do it is kind of a misnomer. It's not something that I really subscribe to. Look at Jose Mourinho. He's a fantastic coach, somebody who has achieved things that very few coaches, whether they've played or not, have achieved. And he was not a high level player when he played. So I think that if you draw people in from other disciplines, whether it's law or business or I don't know, even public relations, because they could probably use some of that. So, somebody who has experience running a big organization elsewhere in the world, I think would be ideal. I don't think necessarily that playing soccer, while it does give you some idea for how players feel about issues and the ways that you can protect them, I don't think it necessarily means that you're equipped to run a huge multi-billion-dollar multinational organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone is different in their own ways. I'm going to stick to the national team now. In your opinion, and I've asked this to various guests that we've had on the show, what do you think the U.S. has to do with their youth system, the way they coach, the way they have players, et cetera, to challenge to win a World Cup in the future?
Oh man, that's the big question, right? I think this is happening. Anecdotally, I get a sense that this is happening around the country, but what I think is most important is just to foster a love of the game at a young age and just let kids play. I think, when I was a kid, back in the mid to late 1980s, early 90s, and I was, under sevens, under eights, we were already trying to win, and we were really focused on winning the state cup and getting to the final of whatever, the Sun Bowl if we were playing there, or whatever, the Dallas Cup or whatever it was, and that was really fun, but it also kind of made you feel like there are a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations, and that I don't know. I get the feeling that in countries that have successful national teams and players who go on to play at a very high level, there's a layer of just fun when they were kids, and they did it because they loved it, and it was all they knew. It was all they wanted to do, all they knew to do. You read about like Wayne Rooney when he was a kid, or Zlatan Ibrahimovic when he was a kid, or Maradona when he was a kid. They were just playing, and there was no structure around that. And I think that's so important. I think we don't necessarily, that's not our instinct here in the U.S. by and large, and it's something we have to sort of like force ourselves to do. Okay, we're just gonna let these kids play. Like that is the be all end all of this period of their lives. And if we were doing that a little more, I think it would really allow kids to express themselves, find solutions to problems that maybe they aren't allowed to find in a more structured environment. I know that sounds really wishy-washy and kind of open-ended and free-form, but it's sort of just, my feeling is that we just need to let them play and like let kids develop a real love for the game that sort of underpins everything else that they learn, or all the muscle they build up later in life, all the tactics. None of that stuff is important without the underlying desire to really play,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also what you need to do is market the kids at a young age as well, to say that like they do for basketball, baseball, football, etc.
Market them, like, how do you mean?
Like just marketing, like basic advertisement or something like that.
Well, so like say, oh, these are the best kids, or I'm not sure. I feel like there's a lot of marketing in soccer already, like shoes and jerseys. I don't know. I mean, I kind of revolt against the commercial aspect of all this. I kind of feel like it's become so important, and honestly, the type of cleats you have, or whether you have the latest jersey of your team, honestly, to me that doesn't really matter. It's sort of the core thing for kids is are you really wanting, if you're inside, if you're stuck indoors and your mom's making you clean your room, your dad's making you wash the dishes, whatever you have to do, are you just wanting to get outside and kick the ball? Like that, to me, that core desire to play is the very, it's the atom upon which like everything else that we build as a soccer country is going to be built from, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And all we can hope is just wait for that expectation in the sense.
Totally.
All right, thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Joe.
All right.
Great. Thanks, Rob. George, I want to close out the interview with just a couple of quick questions on Clint Dempsey. Obviously, we saw him lose his mind a la George Brett, I guess, this week in the U.S. Open Cup match. And they've come down with his suspension, which is 3 games, which is, to me and to actually to all three of us is kind of wishy-washy a little bit. So first of all, I wanted to ask your opinion on his suspension. Did you think it was too little? Did you think it was the right number? Too much? What did you think of the suspension overall?
Okay, that's a good question. I haven't, like I said, I've been moving. I haven't really given a lot of thought to it. But so 3 games, was there any money involved? Do you guys know?
I haven't seen any money just yet. All I've heard is the 3 games because everyone just kind of was up in arms the minute they said 3 games.
And do we know if those are those? I would imagine they're not just league games because that was an Open Cup infringement. Is it Open Cup games or what?
I think
league
it's
games. Yeah, it's just league games.
Yeah, I think MLS handed down this particular suspension.
I feel like 3 games is pretty light, honestly, for that kind of thing.
Amen.
If you're gonna that was pretty disrespectful. I mean, I'm all for personality. I like people showing their passion and their energy and getting into it. But it was really, really awfully disrespectful to grab that guy's book, the referee's book, and throw it down and stomp away and
ripped it in half.
Sorry?
He ripped it in half.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that is like just utterly ridiculous that he would do that. But at the same time, I mean, it's not like he bit somebody. I feel like we've sort of gotten to this point in soccer where we're sort of making judgments about players, and there's so much relativism. I mean, it's like, okay, well, he didn't bite anybody, but he also, but he did take drugs or whatever it was that the guy is being punished for. Honestly, 3 games. What? I think that suspending a player is probably the right way to go. Like, because if you're limiting them in a bunch of different ways, and it hurts the team, it hurts the player, and it forces players to maybe think twice about whether they act that way in the future. At the same time, I kind of think that maybe there could be a little bit more here. Maybe Dempsey should have to. Couldn't they give him like some sort of community service related thing where he has to go and referee some kids games or something? I think something like that would be kind of a great
Yeah.
They could definitely suspend him, but then you're getting like a little publicity win for the whole league, right? You're like, you got Clint Dempsey out refereeing a kids game on a Saturday morning in Greater Seattle somewhere. Like that would be hilarious. And I don't know, that I would like to see the league get a little, or I guess it wasn't the league that really came down on him. It was the U.S. Open Cup.
It's funny because you take our discussion full circle, because one of the things, our opening topic tonight was taking a selfie with a superstar on the pitch after a match. Can you imagine the little kids running out there with mom's iPhone and just snapping selfies after the match when Clint Dempsey's the ref? I mean,
oh man, that would be so great. I would totally, if I was a kid, I would totally do that.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, look, 3 games. So you guys think it should have been a lot more strong, the punishment? I mean,
yeah.
Do you think more games or a fine, or what do you think?
For me, both. And I'm going to equate this to assaulting a police officer, although I know that it is not that level. But if you think about it, at its root, the official, the referee, is the authority on the pitch.
Yeah, he's the law.
He's the law, exactly. Yeah. And to me, it's the equivalent of taking a book out of a cop's, shirt pocket and ripping it up in half and walking away. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a blatant disrespect for authority at that point, in my opinion. I mean, whether the referee made bad calls or whatever, I get it. And I've had I've had 1,000,001 calls go against me. I have never, in the 35 years I've played football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, in the 35 years I've played, I have never, ever, ever touched a referee. And
so I think your analogy is pretty apt, and I think that it leads us to the only responsible solution, which is to arm all game officials with tasers.
Oh, here we go.
Right?
Yeah, could you imagine that? Could you imagine Neymar getting in somebody's face at the Copa America and somebody pulling out a taser and just jolting him right on the pitch?
That would at least explain his hairdo, right? Because then you're like, well,
listen,
he got fried. So
I think Howler would have a story.
That's for sure. We should start a campaign. Arm the refs.
Arm the refs now.
Give them tasers.
Oh, okay.
Soccer specific tasers. Maybe they come on the end of the whistle or something, right?
Yeah, something like crazy. But now one suggestion that's been made is obviously, like we said, who's in the right, who's in the jurisdiction here, because this is a U.S. Open Cup match, which should fall under United States Soccer Federation. But it was MLS, I believe, that handed down this punishment. Shouldn't it have been the Soccer Federation that handed this down? And at that point, what does USSF, what does Sunil Gulati do at that point? Because, you're talking about suspending him for the Gold Cup. So now, is it something that maybe, USSF did not want to stir the pot and they didn't want to consider the idea of taking Clint Dempsey off the pitch in a pivotal Gold Cup matchup against, let's say, Mexico or Costa Rica or anybody like that?
That's interesting. Yeah, I again, like the details of this, I'm hazy on because I haven't been paying super close attention. But like Luis Suarez, I guess he was banned for a little bit of time from club soccer, but he's banned longer for international soccer, right? So there is a distinction, and Dempsey did do this during club play, right? So even though the U.S. soccer is the ultimate authority of the U.S. Open Cup, I do see like sort of a precedent for distinguishing between infractions you commit as a national team player and as a club player. And I'm not so sure that a player should necessarily be suspended for international play for something they do during a club. Although not so much just because. Because I think there's a super strong distinction, but more so because in this case, U.S. Soccer has the jurisdiction, but in a lot of other cases, it's separate bodies that have the jurisdiction, and so you'd find it hard to get the kind of consistency you'd want in those punishments.
Hi, George. This is Mike in Toronto. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the U.S. Soccer does have a particular rule for this, and it says that any player, coach, manager, club official, or league official who commits an intentional act of physical violence upon a referee shall be suspended without pay for a period of at least 6 consecutive matches. The assault suspension shall commence with the first match after which the individual has been found to commit this act. For these purposes, referee assault shall include, but is not limited to, striking, kicking, choking, grabbing, running into a referee, spitting on a referee, and I guess what is important here as far as Dempsey goes, damaging the referee's uniform or personal property. Right.
Yeah, no, that definitely, that's right. I wasn't aware of that rule specifically, but so it sounds like he should have been suspended for at least 6 games, right? Based on that rule. But my question is, does that rule say anything about club versus international play? Because that's the question that I have. I mean, I guess I'm not sure if it does. Do you know, Mike?
I'm not sure, George, but if I know that if it was England, I think it would just apply to club play.
Mike, I have to say that you do have a conflict of interest here as a Canadian wanting to get Dempsey suspended. So, we should just acknowledge the
Actually, I don't think he should be suspended for international play, but I do think the domestic penalty should have been harsher.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. If that's the rule, then stick with the rule. Suspend him for 6 games. Like that is, and I'm not sure why is it MLS that it falls to suspend him when, it's an Open Cup game. It's, U.S. Soccer has these rules for a reason. What are we doing here?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't understand that either, but I guess MLS, for all intents and purposes these days, is U.S. Soccer, apparently.
Yeah, that line is sometimes blurry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I you have to ask yourself, what would happen if this were a lesser-known player? And you have to. I don't know. I tend to think that this wouldn't really be quite as tolerated if it were a younger, less experienced, less important player.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that.
Then again, that's just sort of life, right?
Yeah.
It is, yeah. It seems, but right or wrong, that's his life.
Yeah. I mean, if it were like Omar Gonzalez, he'd have sat the full 6+. That's for sure.
I think so. And sorry, I was about to make a bad joke, so I've saved myself and your listeners from having to hear it.
Fair enough.
George, in your opinion, should this affect his captaincy with the U.S. men's team?
Oh, I mean, I've thought Clint Dempsey has been sort of, he's always been kind of a hothead, and I think we've seen him be. I think petulant is the word that most commentators go to for this kind of behavior. We've seen him be this way in the past. Nothing quite as sort of aggressive and kind of in your face as like grabbing the referee's book and tearing it up, but like definitely like questionable tackles and the famous like no face that he did to that player that people love so much. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the locker room. I don't know what the case is for Clint Dempsey to be captain. He's a very good player. Is he a real leader there? I have no idea, to be totally honest. I've always thought Michael Bradley is sort of a lead by example kind of guy on the field, and so it wouldn't surprise me if he becomes the captain. Permanently in a year or two. But yeah, I don't. I mean, this is a long way of saying I don't necessarily have an opinion on whether Clint Dempsey should be captain or not.
Fair enough. Thanks a lot, George.
Sure.
And George, since Mike took my last question, I guess I'm going to close it out and say thank you for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure to have you on, and certainly well worth the wait, I must say.
Yeah, guys, I'm really sorry about that, but thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and the good words about Howler are much appreciated. It was very, very kind of you to say those things.
No problem. Before I let you go, I'm going to say you have to give Mike Lagavino a few more shots there. He's one of our favorites. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, Mike's great. Mike is fantastic. He's got to write some more for us for sure.
Yeah, and
good luck with the rest of your move, George.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. I really do appreciate it.
And I was going to say, I'm going to rely on you to disconnect because I have no idea where you're connected to it. So,
all right, I'm going to hit the red button. Hope it doesn't blow anybody up.
Fantastic. Thanks again for joining us.
All right, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again. Bye.
Thanks.
And that was George Quraishi from Howler Magazine. Fantastic guest. I mean, he was really he's certainly knowledgeable, great to talk to, and certainly, a pleasure. Rob, your thoughts on some of the stuff that he had to say?
Yeah. Very well-versed, very outspoken and so forth, and just a good guest overall.
Yeah, Mike, how about you?
Sorry for taking your last question, Joe. I didn't know.
That's okay.
No, I really enjoyed it. He was a pleasure to talk to, and I hope we can get him back again when he gets his move done, and we can talk maybe when we get closer to the MLS playoffs with him.
Absolutely, yeah. He would definitely be somebody to have on again, somewhere in the very near future, because obviously, working with Howler Magazine, he has to be able to cover multiple leagues and things like that. So you definitely, he would definitely be somebody to have on, especially with the big tournaments of the day. We didn't even get a chance to get into the Women's World Cup or anything like that we could have talked about as well. So, and I'm just going to segue just real quick because we've been updating as the show's been going on to update the Women's World Cup. England has defeated Norway in the round of 16 match 2-1. Gulbrandsen scored for Norway in the 54th minute, and followed by two unanswered goals by England, Houghton in the 61st and Bronze in the 76th. And England will be moving on in this Women's World Cup to face the host nation of Canada. That match is going to be on the 27th of June. So I'm gonna just basically refer back to our show plan. I think, Mike, we were planning on possibly going to the results of our simulation, But with what, we wanted to definitely have Luca on for that, or at least in the chat room to discuss it. And I don't see him there. I think Liam had said that he is away. So the question is, I'm going to pose it to you guys. Do you want to go through the results of the simulation, or do we want to hold that for the next time so that we can have Luca on to chat about it?
Well, I think since Luca proposed it, maybe we should wait one more week. Or I guess it'd be 2 weeks, and hopefully he'd be back from wherever he is by then.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll tweet out to Luca that we're going to hold that segment until he is back to be a part of it. And I think, and I just want to make sure, obviously we've got 6 people in the chat at the moment, but Chad Smith, who is the host of Two Daft Yanks, is trying to listen to our show, and he says that he's having trouble with the players. So I'm going to go and see if I can to maybe help him out a little bit.
But is he talking about the player in the chat itself, or
I think he's talking about the direct link player. So I'll have to see. Let me see if I can get the link to the actual player that we have here. That's I'm going to post it in the chat. If anybody's in the chat that is having trouble listening to the show, I'm gonna put this in there just in case. And if you can. And if you can copy that and paste that directly into your browser, you should be able to get to the player for our show. So, so let's. I'm going again. I was going back through the show plan, and since we've covered the U20 World Cup final again, Serbia 2-1 over Brazil in extra time, let's go over to the Women's World Cup, gentlemen. Obviously, we've got the U.S. women taking on Colombia coming up at 8:00 at the top of the hour. One thing that I just saw on Twitter as we were talking to George a few minutes ago is exactly 21 years ago today, the United States beat Colombia in the World Cup that was held in '94 here in the U.S. So, hopefully it's a good omen. It's they will that the women will go ahead and see this one through against Colombia. I know the Colombian women have been talking a lot of smack over the past couple days about how they're not afraid of us and that sort of thing. So we're going to have to see how this one's going to turn out because, they've got a little chip on their shoulder. This is a team that knocked off France at the beginning of this World Cup, a French side that's definitely playing much better since the start of the tournament, culminating with a 3-0 victory over South Korea. I believe that was yesterday in the round of 16. But just to give you the round of 16 matchups or the results that we have so far, China defeated Cameroon 1-0, and China will face the winner of tonight's U.S.-Colombia match. Germany certainly firing on all cylinders at this point, 4-1 over Sweden. They're going to face France, who was a 3-0 victor over South Korea. That particular match is going to be on June 26th. Heading over to the other side of the bracket, we have Brazil, Marta, losing on her 5th straight World Cup, so she'll go. She'll retire without a World Cup trophy.
And looking really ordinary in this tournament. And we have to come up with a new number 1 player in the world now.
Agreed. But Brazil sent out on this tournament 1-0 to Australia. Australia will face the winner of the Japan-Netherlands matchup, which is going to be played tomorrow. And in the other end of the bracket, again, as we repeat, England 2-1 over Norway. They will face the host Canada, who disposed of Switzerland 1-0 yesterday. So those matches will be played on the 26th and 27th, the quarterfinal matchups. The semifinal matchups will be June 30th and July 1st, with the Women's World Cup final being held on July 5th. So we will recap semis all the way down to our champion when we come back on our next show. I'm going to throw it over to Rob. I'm sorry, actually, Mike, I'm going to send it back to you because we didn't hit the MLS yet. So why don't we go ahead and do the MLS, Mike, and then we'll go back to Rob for Copa America.
All right, well, talk about something for just a second because I was not ready to go to MLS yet.
Nope, that's no problem at all. I know we're kind of jumbling around the show here a little bit as we move along. But But this Women's World Cup, I saw a couple of tweets that were just on Twitter a few moments ago, and I forget who tweeted it, but they were saying that this is the first time that they've had a round of 16 in the Women's World Cup, and they weren't expecting a ton of it out of it. But we've had some close matches: 1-0 China over Cameroon, 1-0 Australia over Brazil, 1-0 Canada over Switzerland. So we've had some close ones here. And the play has been very good in this round of 16. We had a couple of first-timers like Cameroon getting into this round of 16. So we've had some great play. Also, this China team, I don't think that they're going to do much this year. If the USA gets by Colombia, China will have to face the United States. If they manage to get by the United States, then they'll have to face the winner of Germany-France. I think there's just way too much, but this China team is the youngest team in the tournament, and they're certainly playing at a high level. So they tend to park the bus a little bit, but we'll have to see. That could be a team that not necessarily in this World Cup, but in one of the next two World Cups could be rather dangerous.
And I think in the coming years we're really going to, unless Canada improves, like they've really stagnated in the last few years to a level where they are now and no further. Their number 8 ranking is really going to fall as these European women's clubs start getting better at this game, which they've already started to do at this World Cup, apparently.
And I just want to read a quote. This is from Yoreli Rincon, who's a midfielder for the Colombian national side. She said, "We've played against the United States. We know how they play, the way they play. They're clearly taller than us, more athletic, but they don't have the heart that we Colombians have. They're going to have to fight us tomorrow." And this is a quote from yesterday. A little bit of smack talk in there. What do you guys think? You think the Colombian side has more heart than the U.S. women? That one, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with the statement at all. I think it's just a little bit more smack talk than anything else. Rob, I'm going to send it over to you. Do you think that's a little more smack talking, or do you think that is a real deal threat?
I think it's more smack talking, but it's all about what they could be able to prove on the pitch now.
Exactly. And I just want to touch base with Chad quickly. I know Chad's in the chat, and I think he got the radio loaded up. So if he just wants to send me a message that he did get the link for the show, that I would appreciate it. So,
are you ready, Joe?
I'm ready. Let's hear about the MLS, man.
Okay, I'll start with our match of the week, which was DC United taking on New England. My prediction was actually opposite of what it was. I had New England winning 2-1, and it was actually DC United winning 2-1. I remember you asked me at the end, Joe, if I had the goal scorers, and the only one I could remember was one for New England, but I said, let's say Chris Rolfe for DC United.
Yeah.
Well, he actually got 2 goals for DC United as they beat the Revolution 2-1. Charlie Davies got 1 for the Revolution, so that was the score, 2-1, DC United winning. DC United had 13 shots, 4 on target. New England had 12 shots, 4 on target. Possession, 52% for DC United, 48% for the Revolution. Neither team had red cards. There was 1 yellow card for Davy Arnaud for DC United. And other than the getting the score wrong, it was actually a pretty good game. A tale of 2 halves. It was definitely all New England in the first half, and then DC United came to life in the second half. So the final score, DC United 2, New England 1. Other games from this week saw Colorado and Dallas draw 1-1. Dylan Cerna for Colorado and Castillo for FC Dallas. Seattle lost, surprisingly, to the Earthquakes 2-0. Perez Garcia and Sian Niasi for FC Dallas. The Red Bulls lost 2-1 to the Whitecaps. It was Frost and Mena for the Whitecaps and Abang for the New York Red Bulls. 2-1 Whitecaps beating the Red Bulls. Toronto FC lost 2-0 to New York City FC at BMO Field in a very dirty match. New York City decided to come out and play this one down and dirty, and it worked for them 2-1. Or 2-0, actually. David Villa with both goals for the FC. Giovico was a really beaten up during this one, but still had a couple of chances and really did display some magic, but couldn't get anything by New York City's Jeff Saunders. The Montreal Impact beat the Orlando SC 2-0 on goals from Toa and Dominic Odoro. The LA Galaxy smashed the Philadelphia Union 5-1. It was Hushidik, Ishtaki, Juninho, Zardes, and Lejet for the Galaxy, and CJ Sapong for Philadelphia Union. 5-1 the final there. Portland beats the Houston Dynamo 2-0. Goals from Fernandez and Max Uredi. DC United in their second game of the week, which was our game of the week again. DC United beating the Revolution 2-1. And in the final match of the weekend last night, Real Salt Lake was able to beat Kansas City. It was Garcia and Jaime for Real Salt Lake, and Dom Dwyer with a pretty nice goal for Kansas City in a losing effort, 2-1. Quick look at the table sees DC United on top of the Eastern Conference with 31 points. Quite a gap between them and the Revolution, who are in second on 24 points. Orlando City is in third. Toronto, with a loss, still stays in fourth on 19 points. The Impact have moved all the way from, what was it, about a month ago, Joe, bottom of the table?
Oh, yeah, with all those games at hand.
Up to fifth place, and still a whole bunch of games in hand. For example, they've got 3 games in hand on the Columbus Crew, who are tied with them for fifth place with 17 points. The Red Bull also on 17 points. New York City FC also on 17 points. So the battle for those last 3 playoff spots at pretty much the halfway point of the season is really building to... we should have a good ending to this season. The Philadelphia Union in 9th place on 15 points. And bottom of the table in the East, Chicago Fire on 14 points. On the other side, it's Seattle on top with 29 points, tied with the Vancouver Whitecaps, but 1 game in hand for Seattle. In third place, tied with the Galaxy, is the Portland Timbers on 25 points. Kansas City on 24 in fifth. In sixth place, it's Dallas with 23. San Jose with 22 in seventh. And eighth, it's the Real Salt Lake on 21. The Dynamo are in ninth with 20. And at the bottom of the table, the lowly Colorado Rapids on 15 points. Still leading the league in scoring is Kai Kamara with 10. Wondolowski with 8. And a slew 7, including Will Bruin, Obafemi Martins, who is now out for 3 to 6 weeks, and Sebastian Giovinco on 7, and Kaká also on 7. Worth mentioning this weekend, Joe, it was also Dwayne De Rosario's testimonial match at BMO Field. Were you aware of that?
I was.
A lot of retired and controversial figures, at least controversial to TFC, came back for the game. Danny Kuvermans, who once described Toronto FC as the worst team in the world in 2012, was back for the match. Ali Gerba was back, who TFC's former coach Preki once described as immobile and uncommitted. Julian de Guzman was there. He was a former DP for Toronto, a much maligned DP at $2 million a year. And D-Row himself, who's also been a bit of a polarizing figure for Toronto FC. Obviously, it was his game. And I don't really know the score, sorry. I don't think they really kept track of it too much.
I was going to say, I don't remember seeing a score for it, but I did see the tweets that it was his testimonial match this weekend.
Yeah, so I guess it was a couple hours before TFC's match, so I think it was well attended, and yeah, I think probably well deserved. Although, and then one name I did forget, and shame on me for forgetting, is Danny Dickey, who also played, of course, TFC legend.
Yep. So I'm just going to add to close out your MLS coverage. There's on WhoScored.com their best 11 of the week was Bill Hamid in goal, and across the back they've got it set up as a 4-4-2, Mike. Allen for New York City FC, Colin and St. Ledger for as the center backs from Orlando City, and Chris Wingert from NYCFC round out the back four.
So did I get the New York? Did you say from Orlando SC or New York City? The two defenders.
The wing backs were Allen and Wingert from NYCFC, and the two central defenders were Colin and St. Ledger from Orlando City.
So did I get the Orlando score wrong then? Because I thought they lost 2-0 to Montreal.
Let me take a look. I can't remember if they did lose 2-0 or
because that'd be weird that they would be in the CB rolls of the week if they
lost to the Montreal Impact 2-0.
Huh?
Yeah. And Orlando City on Monday of last week defeated DC United 1-0.
Right, but that was last week.
Yep. So this was according from 6. Let's see. Yeah, this is last week's team. This is the team of the week. Apparently, the best 11. They do it by rating though. So
okay.
Romero from Montreal Impact, Leggett and from the LA Galaxy, Dorman and Fagundes from the Revolution in the midfield, and the strikers were David Villa and Lamar Nagel from the Seattle Sounders. So
and the official pronunciation from MLS apparently, Joe, is Leggett.
Leggett.
Yes, I know it doesn't spell anything like that, but apparently that's the proper pronunciation, or at least that's what MLS is going with.
We'll go with MLS's pronunciation. So Leggett was in the midfield for them. So, Rob, I'm going to send it over to you for the Copa America. Give us some scores and highlights, and then I'll talk about we'll talk about lots of stuff. I've got my article that I have up on the website and everything else. So fire away, Rob.
Yes, absolutely. The Copa America did return and from last Monday since our last show, and the last match that we had to cover were a Paraguay 1-0 win against Jamaica in Antofagasta, courtesy of a goal by Diego Benitez in the 35th minute, and Argentina faced on Uruguay in the Rio de la Plata match in La Serena, courtesy of a 1-0 victory from a goal by Sergio Aguero in the 55th minute. In the Group C, we had a rematch of the last year's World Cup quarterfinal between Brazil and Colombia. A surprising win, I guess you could say, about Colombia, despite their surprising loss against Venezuela last week. Colombia took revenge over Brazil, getting their 1-0 victory. And again, Neymar, subject of controversy against Colombia. This is something that we've seen last year where he was involved, and now he's been tossed out.
Yeah, but he's out for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, that's right. Double suspension because of a second yellow card of this tournament and a red card, which it makes him suspended for at least 5 games, meaning he will be out for the remainder of the tournament. As well as Colombia, Carlos Bacca will also be suspended for 2 matches due to the controversy with him and Neymar. Peru 1-0 victory over Venezuela, courtesy of a goal by Pizarro. We go back to Group A as we defined the group. Ecuador get their first win in Group A of the Copa America against the disappointing Mexico, and end the group with 1 win for Ecuador and 2 losses, while Mexico have failed to register a single win, getting 2 draws and 1 loss. Meaning this is definitely not the right B squad to play in such a big tournament like this one. Chile, 5-0 thrashing over Bolivia in the Estadio Nacional. This happens at 2-3 days after the controversy of Arturo Vidal, where he was driving drunk while riding a Ferrari and crashed it in the outskirts of Santiago, which led to Jorge Sampaoli to say that he will not be suspended for this. However, his license will be suspended in Italy and has to check in at the Chilean consulate in Turin for the next 8 months. So I'm going to put this back to you guys. Do you feel that he should have been suspended, or do you feel that Sampaoli said the right thing?
It's tough to say. It depends on how they treat criminal cases versus, it's not a league thing. Do you know what I mean? It's CONMEBOL. So what does CONMEBOL do? How does CONMEBOL see it? That, I think, is where the suspension or lack of suspension should come for Arturo Vidal. If CONMEBOL has specific rules against it, then yes, absolutely, and it's nothing the Chilean Federation can do about it. But if they don't, then it's really tough to say, because it's not a matter that happened on the pitch. So, and not to poo-poo what he did, because I mean, the guy was driving drunk. Jesus, I mean, he could have killed himself, could have killed someone else, could have killed his wife who was in the passenger seat. It's a horrible thing to do. I mean, and it's a very irresponsible thing to do. But at this point, in terms of suspending him for the tournament or not suspending him for the tournament, I think it falls on CONMEBOL and their rules of conduct more so than it does anything else. Yeah,
absolutely. This shouldn't be the case for someone like that to, be the second most important player for the team, besides Alexis Sanchez, who is basically a role model for the older Chileans, and then goes out drinking and driving and then crashing his Ferrari and then being tried at court the following day. It's not exactly a good example the Chileans want to follow. So
I'm not surprised they didn't suspend him, but I'm talking about Chile, not CONMEBOL. But I think they should have.
Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, I think he should have been at least suspended for, not the remainder of the tournament, for at least a few games or so.
Yeah, almost in any sport in North America that I can think of, team sport, if something like this happened, you would be definitely missing out on a game or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention that he could have possibly been injured as well, which could have been worse.
Exactly. Yeah. Or he could have injured somebody else.
Exactly. What are you saying? We're going to say
killed somebody.
No, I was going to say I agree that it certainly should have been suspended. Something, whether it be even one match, 2 matches, 3 matches, whatever, but something, because it's conduct of becoming a football player, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's conduct unbecoming anybody, but.
It's conduct unbecoming of normal society, for sure.
Exactly.
Even more reason why they should suspend him.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Nevertheless, Chile will advance. Nevertheless, Chile will advance to the round of 16, where their opponents will be determined the following day, which happened in Group B. Uruguay and Paraguay had a 1-1 draw, courtesy of goals from Jose Jimenez and Lucas Barrios in the first half, from headers from corners. And a 1-0 victory from the aforementioned selfie match between Argentina and Jamaica, courtesy of a 10-minute goal by Higuain, as Argentina topped the group with 7, Paraguay with 5 points. Uruguay is one of the best third-place teams with 4. Jamaica go home without winning a single game or even registering a single goal. In Group C, this was the defining group. All teams were leveled with points, with 3 points, having won a game and lost a game. The first match on that date was Colombia versus Peru in a 0-0 draw. That would have satisfied Colombia a bit, only if Brazil and Venezuela would approach a winner. If the match was a draw, Colombia would have been eliminated, and Venezuela would have been one of the best third-place teams. In the end, Colombia saw themselves off a miracle. Brazil won 2-1, courtesy of goals from Thiago Silva in the 9th minute and Roberto Firmino from the 52nd minute. And with that, Brazil finished first, Peru second, Colombia, who's really done poorly in this tournament, don't you think, guys? Yeah, after all the expectations being made after that World Cup, they've done poorly. 1 win, 1 draw, and only 1 loss, and have only scored
1 goal.
Once.
Yeah, no, I think I said to you last night in chat, Rob, that I don't think they deserve to get through.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now with this team that has Falcao on the team, and he's all washed up from that Manchester United stint last season. So
it sure seems like he's lost that half a yard he used to have, which was what made him the best or one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Without that half step, he really looks ordinary.
Exactly. And not even just him. You look at how James is playing as well. It's not something that he's shown at the World Cup or at his Real Madrid time as well.
At least with him, he's still young, and I know he's young, but because I think Falcao's like 29.
29, yes.
Yeah. I think the other one's just tired, maybe. It's been a long year for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now that he's going to go on Chelsea.
Yeah, so I think it's more just a case of him needing a little bit of a rest, but Falcao, he might be finished. At least as a top, one of the... it wasn't that long ago we used to mention him with Messi and Ronaldo for the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, he was regarded as the third best player in the world at the time.
I'll ask you.
Right, and I don't see him coming back to there. Sorry, Joe.
No, I was going to ask you guys a question on Falcao. Do you think they tried to rush him back too quickly last year?
Yes. Yes, I do.
I agree.
And there's why. Because
in terms of that's why he hasn't recovered to where he was, Joe? Or
yes, he's never been the same.
Because he never did really. I would disagree a little bit in the fact that he didn't re-injure himself during what I guess if we're going to call it a rush comeback. He never re-injured himself. I just think at his age, with that type of injury, which you know a lot more about than I do, I just think some guys just don't get it back. We've seen it in other sports, and I think that might be the case with him.
We have, but the technology these days, especially with therapy and treatment, are such that more people come back and have successful comebacks than not. I think that, well, not I think. If you don't do it correctly, though, you're pretty much doomed for failure. And I think that's what happened with him, is they did not do it correctly. They brought him back way too soon before his muscles and his knee was prepared to learn its new function. Because there's a thing called proprioception. It's your knee feeling where it is in space. Okay, and I even know for a fact myself that if I try to run without my ACL brace on, there's feedback from my ACL brace on my skin that basically tells my brain that it's moving right or it's not. So I don't get that same kind of feedback or feel when I'm not wearing the brace. And I think that his body did not have enough time to learn the way his knee moves now post ACL reconstruction. And so I think he's struggled with that. And I think what we're seeing is the suffering of it. Now we're a year past when he was possibly going to come back, and he still hasn't had that return. I mean, do we see him improving? You know, not for nothing. I thought from the first game that Colombia played to the last game that Colombia played, I thought he's actually improved in his play a little bit better. But again, it was, for me, it was rushed too quickly, and his body's just not prepared for it. And I agree with you guys. I don't think he'll be the same again. I don't think he'll be that Ballon d'Or guy we've talked about 3 years ago. But I still think there's opportunity for him for improvement. We'll never get the same Falcao, but I think we'll get a decent Falcao. You couple that with the fact that he didn't get any favors going to Man United. His best option should have been to stay at Monaco and gotten all the playing time. That would have helped his progression, and he didn't see that. So I think we'll see a better Falcao. Now that he's going to Chelsea, you might see, maybe he gets a little more playing time there. I don't know. I think even in his current state, he's better than Loic Remy. Again, we'll rely on Liam to agree or disagree with me. But I think he's a better option than Loic Remy. Certainly not a better option than Diego Costa, though, at Chelsea. So we'll have to see how the Chelsea transition treats him, I would say.
Here's a little stat for you guys. Ever since he's come back from injury at the end of the 2014 season, he played 9 matches to now, scored 5 goals, where in comparison to his Manchester United season, played 26 and only scored 4.
So 9, really?
Mm-hmm.
So
Chelsea, I'll repeat, the graveyard for the former best strikers in the world.
Tell that to Drogba. So, Rob, I'm sorry, we cut you off there with the chat of Radamel Falcao, if you wanted to continue.
Oh, no, it's fine. I'll continue. So Falcao's Colombia and Uruguay will make it as one of the best third place teams, with Ecuador going out, having less points. And the knockout stages are pretty much determined. On Wednesday, Chile versus Uruguay at the Estadio Nacional. Bolivia versus Peru in Temuco on Thursday. Argentina versus Colombia on Friday. And Brazil, without Neymar, versus Paraguay. You look at the team, I mean, Chile's not leaving Santiago if they win all their matches.
Right.
I think that was such of a little plan for the Chileans to give them in case that they would have to.
I wrote So, Rob, I'm going to cut you off a little bit because I wrote an article about this on Low Limit Football last night, and you guys can go to the website. It's the first article that comes up. And I ranked the 8 teams that are left in terms of their likelihood of winning this tournament. And I've got Chile number 1 for a couple of reasons. One, the one that you just said, Santiago. They don't leave Santiago at all, ever. Nope. All their matches, and I believe, if I remember correctly, and I'm just going to go back and take a quick look, this is a side that has not left Santiago.
Nope. They played all their matches in Santiago.
All their matches are played in Santiago. So they have absolutely no travel throughout the country to play their matches, which is a huge advantage. Second advantage, they get the absolute greatest amount of rest period between their matches going into the quarterfinal. They played their match, they played on the first day of the third match day for their group or for the tournament. Mm-hmm. They don't, which I believe, and I'm just going to go back and look up that date quickly, was June 19th, where they beat Bolivia 5-0. And I mean, it was a thrashing, it was an easy match for them. So June 19th, they have 5 days of rest before they have to face an Uruguay side that just drew Paraguay on the 20th. So they've got one less day of rest for Uruguay. Then they'll play the winner of Bolivia-Peru, but Bolivia and Peru don't play each other until the day after the Chile match. So Peru or Bolivia will only have 4 days of rest, where Chile has 5 days of rest. And the only time they're really crunched for time is when they actually go to that final, if they make it to the final, on the 4th of July, versus the winner of the bottom half of the group, which are Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, and Paraguay. If you look at the teams that are in the bottom half of this group, they are all 4 of them are better than the second place team in the top of the group, which would be Uruguay. I think all 4 of those teams, Paraguay, Brazil, Colombia, and Argentina, all 4 of them are playing better than Uruguay, which means they're going to have kind of a group of death, struggle to get out of their group to get to the final, where they'll face a Chilean side that has had the most rest, has not traveled, and has played the weakest competition to get to that point. This tournament could not be set up better for Chile to win. Let's put it that way.
Yes, absolutely. And they're only one of the 3 teams that are still undefeated in this Copa America alongside Argentina and Paraguay.
And the highest scoring...
What kind of traveling are we talking about for the other teams?
Let me take a look real quick at the different locations.
Well, it depends on where they played their last match. So
yeah,
like it can't be like the travel here for the Women's World Cup, right?
No. Whoever's playing in Temuco, which I think is the Peru match. Let me just.
That is an hour and a half on plane.
An hour and a half by plane, which has got to be. I'm just trying to
1,500 miles at the most.
At least 7 hours on car.
About 7 hours by car. So
do you know how much the United States, who actually is going, if they reach the final, is going to have the worst? This is Women's World Cup, is going to have the worst or the most amount of miles traveled. Take a guess if the United States makes the final. Because these men's numbers are going to be nothing compared to this.
Oh, well, the numbers in Brazil for last year's World Cup were ridiculous in terms of travel. So I can't imagine. It's got to be something similar to that. I would say 7,000 miles.
6,000 miles, the United States women, if they make it to the final.
So of the teams, of the cities that are in the knockout stages of the Copa America, the furthest stadium from Santiago is Temuco, which is where the Peru-Bolivia match will be played. So
and were either of those teams already there?
No, they weren't. But let's see.
Okay.
Peru's last match was played in... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Peru was.
Okay, so no travel for them.
Nope.
No travel for Argentina either.
Nope. And
I don't think travel's going to be as big a thing. It's nice to not have to move at all, but some of these teams that we're mentioning right now aren't moving either and they might only have to move once more.
Here's the great part, though. After Temuco, the second longest travel time is from Concepcion, of all the knockout cities. In Concepcion, the teams that play in Concepcion will have to travel to Santiago to play the final against Chile.
But do we have any idea how far that's apart?
It's similar. It's a similar distance. It's probably, just judging by looking at the map, I would say it's probably about 2 hours travel closer by car.
An hour.
It's an hour? Okay. So, you're still talking about a 6-hour drive.
Yep.
But we're talking an hour airfare?
They would do airfare. I don't think they would drive.
They would do air.
Yeah, why are we worried about driving? For the fans here?
It's just the hassle
Who
of
cares
travel.
if they're tired?
Well, but it's just the hassle of travel,
Right, but it's not that bad. Like I said, compared to what's going on here in Canada right now, it's not even an issue, I wouldn't think.
No.
Right.
Also, but you're looking at a lot of teams that have a lot of players that, not for
Like
nothing.
Montreal to Vancouver drive is 3 days.
Right. Oh, yeah. But you're looking at a lot of teams that to me, gentlemen, and I'm going to ask your opinion on it. I'll give you mine first. To me, they look tired. Lionel Messi has looked tired in this tournament to me.
I wouldn't blame him.
Even James looked a little tired to me.
But when is the last time any of these guys might have had a month off?
Last August. Barely.
And I bet you they didn't. There was some testimonial, some stupid friendly something.
I agree.
And here's the thing as well. The players that played in the Champions League final, they're not showing up in this tournament.
No, they're not.
Except one, Vidal.
Yeah, except Vidal. He's the only one. Yeah.
The rest, Neymar is out. Messi's not having one of his best of tournaments. He's been doing well, but not as well. And yeah.
Yeah. So
even Tevez.
To me, it's Chile's to lose at this point. And honestly, even though and when I wrote this article, I took Chile as number 1, but then I pretty much put the other 4 teams in the bottom of the bracket, 2, 3, and 4, except for Uruguay. I've got Argentina, Brazil, and Colombia, and then I went to Uruguay 5th. And the reason I put Paraguay 8th is because Paraguay is going to have to go through 2 of Argentina, Brazil, or Colombia, which I think is just way too tall of a task. And Rob, I root for the Paraguayan side. I do. I think to have to beat Brazil and then even though they're not going to have to travel, beat the winner of Argentina Colombia, I think is going to be too tall of a task to get to the final. And then if they do let's say they do get through that and they get to the final, then they're going to have to face a Chilean side that has had an easy time of it. So
here's the thing, though. The last time Brazil and Paraguay faced each other in all competitions was in the last Copa America in the same situation in the quarterfinal. It was a 0-0 draw after extra time. Paraguay won on penalties, and all the Brazilians missed all their penalties. They won 2-0.
Well, that's I'm hoping.
And Paraguay has played Argentina as well before, so they know how they play. So
I'm hoping for the same result. I gotta tell you.
Let's
He's a kid with a dream, Joe. He's a kid with a dream.
He is a kid with a dream.
let's since we're at the topic, you put in the week in the plan that you didn't mention the other 2 quarterfinal matchups. What do you got for Bolivia and Peru?
I think Peru's going to win that match. I think Peru is actually playing quite well. They looked good yesterday. Yeah, and in their match in their draw against Colombia, I thought they've looked pretty good the entire tournament. They beat Venezuela 1-0. They lost on a heartbreaking injury time goal to Brazil in the first match of the tournament. But I think Peru's playing pretty well. So I would take Peru over Bolivia in that one. Bolivia looked like they were playing okay, but just got thrashed by Chile. That match wasn't even close. It was the kind of thing that was so bad that even the bounces were just going bad for them with the own goal. It was ugly. So I think I think I would take Peru in that match. Mike, how about you?
Yeah, I think I'd take Peru too, but I don't know really a lot about it to be going much deep into that game. I'm still taking Argentina to win it all. Damn you and Chile.
Well, I think I'm not saying that Argentina couldn't win it. I think Argentina-Chile is going to be the final.
I think I'm predicting as well.
Yeah. So I mean,
what would your dream final be?
Paraguay versus
Bolivia.
Paraguay, Bolivia.
That's right.
Definitely.
That would be the dream final for Rob. I mean, I don't know. The way the teams are playing, I would say Argentina-Chile would be a dream final. The way these brackets are set up.
You're gonna hear me out on this.
Okay.
There's gonna be an upset in one of these matches.
I'm sure.
I don't know which one, but there's gonna be one. Definitely. It's always happened.
Would it surprise you if it was Colombia-Argentina?
Yes. I would.
So all right, so if we had to pick, so obviously in these 4 matches, Chile's favored over Uruguay, I would say, Peru over Bolivia, Argentina over Colombia, and Brazil over Paraguay. Which upset would surprise you the most?
Bolivia.
Bolivia over Peru?
That would surprise me, at least.
Okay. See, I would be surprised by Uruguay over Chile. I don't think this Uruguay side is playing well at all. And, and for me, lucky to even get to this point.
Mike?
So, Mike, how about you?
Well, I'm taking Argentina to win it all, so if they lost, that would be the biggest upset to me.
So
then Aguero goes back to Manchester.
Then
Yeah. We still got 2 more months.
So he'll get some rest.
Unless he gets the friendlies.
You might as well win it. And like I said, if they're going to go to these things, win them at least.
Yeah, that's what you said with Yaya Toure. That's right, with the African Cup of Nations.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so if you're going to do it, win it. But let's cut back on some of it. Like you said, this tournament's suffering from it. Probably club play suffers from it more than we realize. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd just like to cut back on some of the international stuff.
And these teams are already setting up for stuff like Champions League. I mean, some of these players are setting up for Champions League already. They're setting up for a lot of that stuff going in right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like it's 360 days a year.
Right, Rob. Anything else you want to add about the Copa America before we close it out?
No. I just hope for a good quarterfinal match. Obviously, I hope the best for Paraguay. Hopefully, we can get some result against Brazil, possibly shock the world. If not, I really hope there is an Argentina-Brazil semifinal because that would be very special to watch.
Yeah.
So, do you watch these games with your pops, Rob?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, cool.
I would. That's for sure.
So he's a big fan too.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah. So I like it. On the 4th of July, I was really hoping. I got to be honest with you. Rob, not to poo-poo Paraguay, but I was hoping for Colombia to get to that final on July 4th because, again, I'm gonna be with my buddy and his in-laws, and his in-laws are Colombian. So last year I was with my buddy.
Well, now you can trash talk them.
Well, no, but last year I was with him on 4th of July, and that was the match that Brazil played Colombia, the famous match, and we all sat on his deck and watched it, and I don't know if they were more in shock about the fact that I was rooting for Colombia or the fact that I knew so much about soccer. It was one or the other.
I think they knew. I think they knew that you knew about soccer because of your last name.
Maybe. Well, her uncle actually asked me, "How come you know so much?" So, which is kind of funny, but
your last name.
Yeah. Well, I told him I hang out with you guys every Monday night. So, all right. So let's close it out. Obviously, like I said, when we come back on July 7th, we are going to recap the champion. Hopefully, it's Paraguay. I might as well add that in there. One other thing I want to add real quick before we get into the week ahead is like I had mentioned earlier, the Champions League draw happened today in terms of the first round of qualifying, and I'm just looking up some of the matchups that came about because of it. Not really recognizable teams. Lincoln Red Imps, which is a team out of Gibraltar, playing FC Santa Coloma, who is from Andorra. We have Crusaders from Northern Ireland playing Levadia Tallinn from Estonia. Punic from Armenia is playing Folgore from San Marino. Torshavn from Faroe Islands is playing the New Saints from Wales. That is the first qualifying round. Those matches are June 30th or July 1st with a second leg on the 7th and 8th. And Mike, to answer your question, or actually I think that is Rob's question there, we did talk about the Women's World Cup. And yep, I did it. And I guess I cut you off, Mike, for doing it, didn't I? So, but just to give you...
no, Joe, that's fine. I just I thought maybe that's why Rob forgot, because he was probably looking at the plan, seeing my name and thinking, I never heard Mike talk about that. That's all.
Yeah, I cut you off. My bad. So
no, I took your question, so we're even.
There we go. So that'll do it for league coverage. We have the week ahead, gentlemen. And Mike, you said you have a great matchup for us in MLS this week, right?
I'm hoping it's good. It's number 2 in the East taking on number 2 in the West. I think number 2 in the West is probably far more surprising than number 2 in the East. What do you think?
Yeah, but number 2 in the West is a solid team, so.
Right, and I did have them making the playoffs, but I can't say I thought they'd be doing as well as they are at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they both can do.
Carl Robinson, a really good coach.
Yeah. When is that matchup?
It is on
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday, and it's in New England, and I have it as a 1-1 draw.
Wow, that should be pretty exciting.
I believe New England's tied 5 of 9 at home so far this year.
Wow. So Rob,
Rowe for England and Kofi for Vancouver. Sorry.
Nope, that's I'm just writing those down now. Rowe and Kofi scores in that one. So, Rob, I'm going to throw it over to you. I've got 2 Copa America matches highlighted. I mean, obviously the final of the Copa America would be the one to talk about, but 2 matches highlighted for this week, if you want to go through them quickly.
Yes, absolutely. We got the host Chile against Uruguay on Wednesday, 7:20. Definitely going to be an interesting match for both sides. Obviously, Chile definitely want to get their first Copa America in their history. So this match will be the first test out of the next 3 ones that they could possibly have. So definitely be interesting. Argentina against Colombia on Friday will also be an interesting one. Hopefully, it will be as entertaining as it should be, because this is a rivalry in the sense that it goes way back. But yeah, let's see what Messi and company with Aguero, Higuain, Tevez could do against Falcao, James, Cuadrado, etc. So if I'm going to pick a winner, I'm going to pick Chile 2-1 and Argentina 1-0.
And all of them could be up here, right? I would think all 4 of these matches we could have put up here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Not to be missed is what I'm saying.
I agree. All 4 matches, starting on Wednesday, like we said, all 4 matches, you'll get one a night on beIN Sport. And all 4 are going to be worth watching, no doubt about it. So,
yeah.
And when's yours, Rob? Thursday or Saturday?
Saturday.
Okay. Absolutely, right. which I'm excited about. So, but that'll do it for our look ahead to the week ahead. Obviously, we're going to get hopefully a U.S.-China matchup here that will also add to the docket. I believe that will be Saturday if that happens. But the U.S. obviously has a task ahead of them in the 10 minutes from now, roughly, facing the Colombia side in the round of 16 in the Women's World Cup. So you can tune into Fox Sports 1 for that one. So Mike, we're at the trivia answer. Why don't you give us the question again?
Let me ask you guys one question first. When does the Gold Cup start?
I have that. It is actually, I believe, it's the night. It's the night we come back. I think it's the 7th.
The 7th.
Yeah, and
7th of July.
Yep.
Yes.
And
okay.
One thing we're gonna, and I'm glad you brought it up. And I don't know if Chad is still listening or if he's in the chat room still. But the guys over at Two Daft Yanks, Chad and Corey, want to see if they want to get together with us to do kind of a Gold Cup. Originally it was going to be a Gold Cup preview, but with vacations and stuff, didn't think we could make it work. So they want to do a Gold Cup recap with us. So keep an eye out for that.
The same thing. Top 2 teams get out, and then 2 third-place teams. Is that how it works?
I believe so.
Yes, sir. Exactly like the Copa America.
Yep.
Oh, so we'll have to come up with our predictions when we come back then.
Yep.
Especially if that's the day it starts. Perfect.
That's the day. That's the day it starts. So that'll be hot and heavy on our next show. That's for sure.
It'll coincide with the first match.
Yep.
On 80.
Oh yeah, we'll be 7 o'clock, right? It's first match, and we'll be on. Yeah, so perfect. And then the United States game at 9:30.
Yep.
So we'll be off the air in time for everybody to go and watch that one. So.
Yeah, great.
All right, so go for it. Trivia answer.
Okay, I'll read the question one more time, and just let me find it again. During my career, I played for 5 European clubs, all of them having reached a Champions League or European Cup final since 1988. Sorry. I scored 62 international goals, and I also scored at 3 World Cups. Who am I?
Rob, can I give mine first? Because I'm starting to like my answer a little bit.
Go for it.
But I think it's wrong. But I wrote down Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
That is wrong.
Okay. I tried. Rob, what do you got?
El Fenomeno. Ronaldo.
That is right. The real Ronaldo.
The real Ronaldo. Only 3 World Cups?
Scored in 3.
Scored in 3.
He might have played more and not scored in one of them.
No, he played in 3. He was in one squad.
Right.
So now I'm just trying to think of the 5 teams that he's played for that have
Inter, Milan, Inter, AC, Real, Barcelona, and
must be one of the teams. Oh no, it's got to be a European team, right?
Yeah.
PSV.
Ah, PSV.
See, good thing we have Rob here because I didn't write them down.
Yeah, see, because I had Zlatan and I had Juventus, Inter, AC Milan, Barcelona, and I couldn't remember if PSG has been to the finals of any of those cups.
You could have mentioned
Zlatan has 3 European championships.
See, I don't know if he has.
Zlatan has no Champions League.
Okay.
Zlatan has never won the Champions League.
And that's where that's another spot where I'm missing it. Okay. But, well, I mean, another good trivia question that, of course...
Here's the ironic thing as well. Ronaldo's never won the Champions League as well.
No, 3 finals, though.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, of course I got it wrong again. That's all that matters, right? So, gentlemen, unless we have any other business to attend to, I'm going to hit the closing.
I guess I want to mention something.
Please.
Personally, I want to thank both of you guys for helping me get the credential for the Gold Cup. I'll be covering the Gold Cup between the United States and Haiti at Gillette Stadium on the 10th of July. Mm-hmm. So I just want to thank both of you again.
Dude, well, you're covering it for us, so I don't know that you want to thank us because we're going to expect a report.
Have a lot of fun, man.
Absolutely. Can I mention a story to add on?
Great summer for you, Rob.
Yeah, so far.
I got a phone
now
call.
We got to get you a girlfriend, and we're all set.
Yeah, right. No, because then you'll never see him again. I got a phone.
I'd still be here.
I got a phone call from New England Revolution the other night, asking me if I was interested in attending the Gold Cup. That last year or 2 years ago, I went to the Gold Cup in Connecticut, and they were wondering if I was interested in attending it this year. And I said, well, I wish I could, but I'm going to be away because the match in Foxborough is on July 10th. But my co-host for my podcast is going to be there covering it for us. And I gave him your name and told him the name of the show. And the guy's like, oh, I'll have to check that out now. So you never know. Tonight, somebody from the New England Revolution could have tuned in to listen to the show. But I thought it was kind of funny that they would call asking me if I wanted to go watch the matches.
Well, if they did, I'm sorry they lost last week's match of the week, but I did pick you guys again. So
there you go. See that? So, all right, boys. Without any further ado, let's hit the closing music.
All right.
And just gonna turn it down here a little bit so I can talk over it. So, again, coming up next week, we do not have a show. The show is off next week. We will be returning on July 7th, and on July 7th, we'll recap the Women's World Cup. We'll recap the Copa America final. We will also preview the Gold Cup as we had just discussed. And gentlemen, we'll probably start turning in some more transfer news and notes and highlights as they come available. Again, special thanks to George Quraishi for joining us tonight. It was a fantastic guest, and we really enjoyed him a great deal. So for episode 78 of Low Limit Football, I'm Joe Usello.
And I'm Roberto Rojas.
And I'm Mike Orr saying good luck, America, tonight.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us, and good night.
Thanks for listening.